a sensitive topic, elderly parents, and this is often a difficult conversation to have when you are faced with that as an adult child. Let's talk about, holidays are coming up, another month we'll be all gathering around the Thanksgiving table. You might be coming home after some time and you might notice some things have gone a little astray. What are some of the signs and symptoms that you should be looking for when you do come home after it's been some time?
Absolutely. So you want to be looking for anything unusual or different in the house. So it might be bills or paperwork that's stacking up. Maybe mom or dad used to be really on top of things and just everything is strewed across the kitchen table now. Also their physical appearance, how they're doing with their personal care, maybe not shaving or not doing their hair, getting dressed up anymore. Another good one that we always mention is the car, making sure that you're looking for dings and dents in the car or maybe even the garage. All of these are signs that something might not be going quite as well, and you really need to have that conversation with your parent.
And it is that having that courageous conversation, and that's the difficult part, when you have, when you know something should be done, but yet you have parents that are stubborn, and giving up, quite frankly, your independence is a big deal.
Right.
How do you even broach that topic? How do you even start that conversation?
So it is a difficult conversation to have, but it's so important to approach it with your parent. And there's really no one size fits all when it comes to this conversation, but some things that might make it more successful are starting with you understand the fact that your parent wants to remain independent and you want to support that. But you want to come with resources and information for them, as well as a listening ear. You don't want to do all of the talking. You want to hear what their concerns are and what their wishes are so that you can best support them in that. You also might want to think about bringing other people in. Maybe it's having a trusted physician, friend, neighbor. Maybe that's the right person to have the conversation first.
Good advice there. Now let's say you get through that and they agree to have someone come in. Let's talk about some of the programs that Hartford HealthCare offers, particularly senior services, Hartford HealthCare at Home. There's just a plethora of services that are offered. Let's start with that free home risk assessment. What actually happens there?
Yep, so we do a free home assessment at the Center for Healthy Aging, and we take a holistic approach. We look at home safety. How is the person functioning in their home? Are they able to get into the bathroom, the kitchen, in and out of the house? And we also talk about finances, advanced directives, and planning for what their needs are now, as well as what you're going to need maybe a year or 5 years from now. So we want to plan for all of the options.
And explain advanced directives. I know that's a term we use a lot. Folks out there may not be familiar with that, but what does that exactly mean?
Yeah, so there's a couple documents that go into the advanced directives. There's the living will, which is what are your medical wishes? Would you want to have CPR, a feeding tube, any of those life-saving measures? A healthcare representative document means who can make medical decisions if you cannot speak for yourself. And then the power of attorney is the financial document. Who can do financial things, going to the bank, filling out bills. So those are two separate things that people aren't always aware of.
And you recommend having these conversations the earlier the better, because you don't want to be faced in a situation where you need to make a split-second decision and you don't know what your parents' wishes are.
Absolutely. So if you're listening to this, be talking about it now with your parents and your family members. All of us should have advanced directives, because if in a crisis, it's too late to start planning for all of these things.
Right. We're talking with Nancy Becker. She is with the Hartford HealthCare Center for Healthy Aging. We encourage you to ask her a question. We're talking about elderly parents and the care that goes into this, and this can be certainly an overwhelming process. There's a lot here. Let's go back to the home assessment. After that's been done, what is the next step? You come up with a plan based on the individual's needs or the family's needs?
Right. So based on what we find in the gaps in care that we see, we would start making recommendations. It might be looking at in-home caregivers, getting one of the emergency response systems, or maybe an electronic medication dispenser system, which makes sure that you take your medications at the right time each day. If things are overwhelming and it seems like that person might not be able to coordinate all of those services, we do have a geriatric care manager who becomes like another family member. She schedules everything, she oversees it, and is just there to advocate for you.
And that takes a lot of the stress and anxiety off of the adult children who might be trying to manage this or who may not live close to their parents.
Absolutely. So just having as many people involved as possible to help, because like we talked about, aging older adults, their children might be taking care of their grandkids and working
Right.
full time, and it's just a lot for folks.
It's a lot to juggle. We have a question from Thora, asks, is there a list of low-income assisted living?
So there is, and you can contact the Center for Healthy Aging. There are 4 right now in the state that are kind of demonstration projects. So they are subsidized, which means that the state and federal government help to pay for some of them, the cost.
And that number is, you can call 1-877, the number 4, aging, and then the number 1, and they can connect you to those services or answer any questions that you might have. Let's talk about if a caregiver comes into the home, how does that process work? How do you find the right caregiver for the right family? What are you looking for?
Right, so going through an agency is the best thing because they're selecting caregivers, they're doing the national background checks, they're making sure the person meets all of the criteria to be a good caregiver. And then it's on the agency to meet with the family and find out what's important to them and what personality would fit. So if it's a family who is dealing with a loved one who has dementia, they're going to be bringing in a caregiver that has dementia background or has worked with another family in a similar situation. But I always encourage families to be as involved as possible. Train that person, let them know what you're looking for, and if it's not working out, talk with the agency.
Yeah, and I was going to say, what some advice to folks at home, what questions should they be asking when they're interviewing or looking for a caregiver? What should they know and what should they need to know?
Right, so asking what certifications does this caregiver have? Are they a certified nurse's aide, a home health aide? How much experience? How long have they been in the field? Also, have they done home care, nursing home care, hospital care? It's all very different. And just spending time with that person, you're going to see if it's the right fit. It's not all about the children. You want to make sure that it's the right person for your aging loved one because they're the ones spending all the time with them.
Right, right. And explain your role. You're a coordinator. You're sort of kind of the quarterback in putting all of this together and executing it and making sure everything's in place. So talk a little bit about what you do in your role.
Yep, so I'm a resource coordinator at the Center for Healthy Aging, and it's really, people come to me when they have questions, they're looking for information, and they're just not sure what's available for their aging loved one. So I talk with them about all of the options from financial planning, looking at different housing options, caregivers in the home. I list out all of the recommendations and educate them, and then I continue to follow up to see if they need assistance getting connected with the right agency or the right place. But it's really getting people the right information at the right time.
And that's such a huge help, you know, because it, like I said before, it can be such an overwhelming process and you think, where do I even begin with something like this? And then if you have parents that are not so willing to give up their independence, like, you know, say their driver's license, that's another really tough hurdle to climb. What do you say to adult children who might be faced with that difficult situation?
Yes, so this is a toughie, I'll tell you. Again, it might be bringing in other people, so maybe the physician is the one to say this, or there are a lot of agencies we can connect you with that do driving evaluations. Maybe your loved one needs to physically do the driving test to believe that they can't do it. But bringing in as many people as you can and making sure that you're asking for support. You don't always have to be the one to say it.
Right. And I'm sure, do you find a lot of times that, you know, maybe it's kind of a rough start, but then once you get into it and you've got the caregivers coming in, whatever services they need, do you find that most elderly parents are accepting of it eventually and say, why didn't I get this sooner?
Absolutely, 100%. So change is hard for all of us.
Of course.
But once you get into that new routine, it becomes
a routine.
A routine. It's a lot easier. It's a lot helpful. Having that caregiver in becomes like another friend too. They have a person to count on, somebody they can talk to. So a lot of times we see aging parents are very isolated. Having a companion there is great for them.
And what about services for, again, for the adult children? Like there's a lot of angst there, especially if you don't live close by. Are there any programs or services that we can offer them? Because family support is huge.
Right, so we always talk with caregivers about doing support groups. There's a lot of educational series that they can attend. Having that geriatric care manager involved, somebody who can contact the adult children and let them know, here's what's going on with mom, this is what we're doing. So they feel like they're part of the decision making, they're still in the loop, even when they're not physically there.
And technology too plays a big role in that. Even when you can't be there, you could actually see what's going on as an adult child.
Yeah, so assistive technology is incredible, and there's so many new things that are coming out. Cameras where you can see in each room of the house to make sure mom or dad is safe, checking in, physically talking with them and seeing on the video, making sure their medications are taken. There's systems that allow you to know when they're taken and when they're not. Telehealth, making sure their blood pressure is okay and their blood sugars. So there's a lot of incredible things they have now.
And medication-assisted treatment program that we have and that's such a huge part in adult aging parents because you know a lot of them could have expired medications,
Right.
they could have medications that they may not need, but you actually come in and that is part of the assessment is looking through their medicine cabinet.
Right. So the first thing we do is say, you know, show us your medications and how do you take them?
Yeah.
And we see people taking medications from under the bed, under the sink, in the cabinets. So we want to see what are they taking, how are they taking it, are they expired, are they not really for them, are there duplicates? We find about 80% of the time there's medication errors, and that's one of the big reasons people go to the hospital. So we want to create a medication list for them with what they're actually taking.
Are you always surprised to see that number so high? I mean, 80%, that's a lot.
It is. It's terrifying
Yeah.
that so many people are dealing with medication issues and that so many people are on so many different medications and they don't know that they can talk to their pharmacist or their physician about looking at are they on the right meds for them. A lot of times we see that one doctor might prescribe something and they don't know that the cardiologist has also prescribed something.
Right.
So keeping a medication list is really important.
And it's not just medications. We were talking earlier, vitamins too are an important play.
Right.
Like show them everything.
Yeah.
And that's your advice, you know, when they're coming in to look in. It's part of that assessment.
Absolutely.
It's so critical, I think, and important because if you're mixing medications and you don't know, that often can lead to hospitalizations, like you said.
Right.
What sort of advice do you give to those out there watching, to our viewers watching? What's like the one really piece of advice that you can say, like if you're in this situation or thinking about maybe I need to have that conversation? What's your advice to adult children?
I would say don't wait. Call the Center for Healthy Aging as soon as possible because the longer you wait, the less options you'll have and the less support that will be there. When people come to see us, we're able to give you hope and let you know there's a lot of programs and services that can help you. So give us a call, let us tell you what you're eligible for and what's available. Just don't keep kind of mulling it over. Call us, go with your gut, let us know when something's wrong.
And there's so many different aspects of the help that you can provide. And I know we're right in the middle of open enrollment now, and that's another big thing is somebody like yourself to go in and look at their current insurance coverage to say, hey, maybe you could be saving some money here. You had an interesting story of helping somebody recently with that.
Right, so every year we tell people, look at your medication plans, look at your Medicare plans. We had someone last year that was on a plan and they loved it, but we changed the plan and they saved $11,000 because the prior plan just didn't cover the medications they were on. So that's why it's important every year to review the options.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is open enrollment now, so it might be a good time to do that. Joseph asks, what is the cost of a risk assessment? That is free.
Yeah, it's free, absolutely. So coming out to meet with us is absolutely free. We do lots of follow-ups. We'll continue to call. We can do multiple home visits. It's all free.
And that's another important thing too, is it's not like once you get them set up with whatever services they need, you sort of are never heard from again. That's not the case. You're there kind of the whole way through, guiding that process. And you can make modifications along the way if something may be needed additionally or maybe take something back. You're constantly evaluating that and making the necessary changes if you need to. Is that correct?
Absolutely. So people never leave our watch. We always have our doors open. Give us a call. We know that aging is progressive, so our needs will change. And that's why we want to continue following up with you to make sure that you know what other options are as you get older.
Yeah. And the key takeaway really is communication, effective communication. Start early. Have that courageous conversation because, again, you don't want to be in that situation where something happens, God forbid, and then you're left to not really know what to do.
Exactly.
But you guys are there, so that's a good thing. Nancy Becker, thank you so much for joining us from the Hartford HealthCare Center for Healthy Aging. Again, if you have questions, call the Center for Healthy Aging at 1-877, the number 4, aging, and the number 1. We thank you for sharing your time with us. I'm Hartford HealthCare's Tina Verona. We'll see you next time.